Okay, now that we've talked about the different haploid and diploid and things like that, now we're going to get into the reproductive cycle, or the life cycle of organisms, starting out with humans and other animals, and then going through plants, and then even simpler plants than that. So starting out here, if we are looking at humans, and sorry for these, I don't know, there's like semi-pornographic diagrams here, kind of a joke, haha. Anyway, our reproductive cycle is going to basically be we are diploid organisms. Everything about us is diploid, and everything happens through mitosis. Then that mitosis, the only exception is that meiosis can happen here in the gonads, either the testes or the ovaries. Meiosis happens to produce individual cells that are haploid, so we have our gametes here that are haploid. Then fertilization happens, brings us back to a diploid state, and then that diploid zygote goes through a whole lot of mitosis to make a couple trillion cells. That is us, okay, as the adults. If we were to generalize that to all animals, then we have the larger organism is a diploid organism. Meiosis happens to produce haploid gametes. Haploid gametes then fertilize to produce a single cell zygote, and then mitosis goes on. Basically, the only multicellular thing in us and other animals is all diploid, all the multicellular parts. Okay, so if we compare that to plants, then. Okay, here's our plants, and the one on the left here, and I should write this in, but the one on the left is plants for the most part, and some algae. But anyway, they're just slightly different, where again, the majority of the organism that you're looking at is going to be diploid, so we have our diploid organism here, and it's going to go through meiosis to make what we call spores, and you guys would think of these as eggs and pollen if we were looking at larger plants, but the kind of the hang up there, the difference there is we're going to actually go through a little bit of mitosis. We're going to take this haploid cell and it's going to go through some mitotic divisions, and we're going to get groups of cells, or groups of nuclei actually, but it's going to be multicellular, and we call it a gametophyte. Okay, multicellular gametophyte that is then going to, and that was made by mitosis of the haploid cells. And as a gametophyte, then that gametophyte is going to produce gametes. Those gametes will fuse, through fertilization, and we get a single cell zygote, and then mitosis gets us our larger organism again. But the huge difference here is this this mitosis that's happening in the spores. So we have haploid cells that are going through mitosis. Okay, so that's those. Now, I'm going to move myself over here a little bit, if I can. Oh, it won't let me move it. I'm going to have to pause the recording here for a second and pick up on another page. Okay, last life cycle here. Actually, the previous life cycle was in the normal plant that you would think about, and those haploid cells, the multicellular haploid cells, that's happening somewhere inside of the flower. You wouldn't even know that you would see those haploid cells. Then this last set, and I got 1 minute to explain it, is in most fungus and mosses, protists. Anyway, up here we have some moss, and the majority of the body of the moss that you would typically think about, that is haploid actually, okay? So we have haploid, the larger organism is haploid, and it is going to go through mitosis to produce gametes. We call this the gametophyte, and the regular part of the cell is a gametophyte. It's going to go through mitosis and produce gametes. Will fertilize and make a zygote. So that single zygote is immediately going to go through meiosis and then produce haploid cells again. Okay, the zygotes, or the call it the sporophyte, is actually these little pods that come out of the top here. Those are the sporophyte pods. Anyway, I got 3 seconds, so have a good night. I want to thank Taco here for being with me.